we're going to talk about elbow pain. This is an injury that is one of the most common injuries in golf, and the problem a lot of the times is how you're approaching impact. The interesting thing with elbow pain actually is that advanced players will actually get pain in different places than more amateur golfers or people who tend to flip the golf club at impact. So basically, let's go over just some basic terminology here. If you have pain on the outside of your elbows with your palms facing forward, that's called lateral epicondylitis, or a lot of times people will call that tennis elbow. Even though it doesn't necessarily only happen in tennis. It happens a lot if you're typing on the computer a lot, if you sit at a desk and you're kind of doing a lot with fine motor tasks with your hands. Very commonly that'll occur in the elbow. On the outside, on the inside of the elbow, a lot of times what we'll call it is golfer's elbow, or more medically is called it's called medial epicondylitis. So in relation to golf, two basic impact positions. We have impact position with a forward shaft lean. I'm exaggerating here. That's going to put stress on the outside of the trail arm and the inside of the lead arm. So when you flex your wrist up, as has to happen here at impact, that's going to stress all those muscles attached to the inside of the elbow. When your wrist is extended, that will stress the outside of the elbow. Now if you flip your club, you're going to have the reverse. So you'll have the inside of the trail elbow and the outside of the lead elbow. That isn't mutually exclusive. Meaning, if you go this way, that doesn't mean you will never have pain out here. That just is something that if you exhibit that swing fault and you have that pain presentation, your technique at impact can be a huge impactor in terms of what's causing your pain, and so therefore needs to be addressed in order to stop your pain from happening and keep it from coming back. So that's kind of the how it can happen a lot of times in golf. When we hit down, particularly if you're hitting on the mats, there's a ton of vibration forces that come through the shaft and have to be absorbed through the forearms. And in particular, if your shoulder muscles around your shoulder blades aren't very stable, the likelihood of lower arm injuries is higher. Wrist injuries that can also occur here, this will actually be a totally separate video. We talk more about wrist, but a lot of times you will see inside elbow pain with inside wrist pain, and the same is true in terms of outside elbow pain and outside wrist pain. But be sure to check out the wrist injury video that we have, as well as that's going to go into more depth in terms of those types of injuries, muscles involved, how more specifically to rehab those. But getting back to today's topic of the elbow, so if you have outside elbow pain, check your impact position. If you have a forward shaft lean and you have outside elbow pain on the back of your on the outside of your trail arm, that could be a potential impactor or reason for that. I'm not saying to change your impact position. I'm just saying to understand that that can be a contributing factor. If, on the other hand, you're flipping, definitely we want to change that. So if you're flipping and you have outside elbow pain or inside elbow pain on the back, definitely working with your instructor to work on a more proper impact position may actually be all you need to do to fix your pain. Now if you're having pain, that means the tissue is unhealthy. So if you can picture basically a spaghetti on a plate all laying parallel like my fingers here, when you have unhealthy tissue or an injury, that gets all kind of cross-fibered. So the analogy I'll use a lot of times, if you have spaghetti on a plate all parallel to each other, you put a fork in it and you spin it, all those fibers of the muscles are all locked up. So what we want to do is we want to get that spaghetti to fall off the fork. We want to get these cross fibers out of there so the tissue can actually be healthy and we can rebuild healthy tissue, which can increase your resilience against future injury. So one of the simplest ways for you to rehab your own elbow is actually a golf ball. So what you're going to do if you have outside elbow pain, you're going to look at, you have these muscles that come down through here. You're actually going to be massaging side to side along the muscles up and down. If you have inner elbow pain, you're going to be rolling on the inside. The muscle in here oftentimes is the flexor carpi ulnaris. On the outside, the brachioradialis, or some of the common extensor muscles. So golf ball works really well. You can sit down on a table and you can kind of go back and forth. If you don't want to use a ball, you can use your fingers to kind of come in. The important thing is that you're really cross-frictioning, going across the muscle back and forth. So that's option one. The second option for treatment to get the tissue healthy would be what we call active release. So in order to do self-active release, what you would do is when you pull your wrist up, these muscles on the outside of your elbow will be shortened. If you put pressure, so I'm going to put pressure as if I'm coming up the arm. As I straighten my hand, I'm going to slide my hand up. So you could do it with your knuckles, pushing up as I extend my wrist. If I'm going to do the inside, I'm going to start with my wrist bent, and I'm going to extend my wrist back as I pull up. Okay, so these are two simple techniques. Again, to review, you'd have cross friction, where you're going across the muscle. You can use knuckles, fingers, a golf ball. So that would be cross friction. The other would be more of an active release technique, where you'd pull the wrist up, put pressure, and then strip up towards the elbow as the muscle extends. On the front of the forearm, you'd have your wrist flexed and extending back. Now you do this probably 2 to 3 minutes, a couple times a day. A lot of times with elbows, you're going to be just massaging throughout the day, trying to loosen it up. I would caution you, if you have elbow pain on both sides, don't go to town on your right arm and be surprised if your left arm starts bugging you. That's where the golf ball really does come in handy to really clear up here without aggravating over here. Okay, so step one is to fix the actual tissue. That's going to help to get the tissue healthy. Step two is then to strengthen the tissue to make it more resilient. And that's where eccentrics come in, and you can actually use your golf club to do them. So eccentrics, if we think of a bicep curl, concentric is shortening the bicep. The bicep would be contracting eccentrically if I slowly lowered the golf club down. Okay, so eccentrics for our wrist, there's going to be 3 basic motions we're going to do. We're going to have our arm out, supported, elbow straight. We're going to slowly let the club head come in this way, towards the middle. That's going to be what's called eccentric, coming down into pronation eccentrically. And then you're here, and you're going to eccentrically go into what's called supination. Ideally, you're going to have your elbow supported underneath. Generally, if you're sitting at a table, you can sit in a chair and just have your arm supported with a pillow or something of that nature. And then the final one is going to be, generally you can do it with like a 5 to 10 pound weight, holding here and slowly lowering it down. And then your goal is going to be that you're always using your opposite hand to bring it up, slowly lowering it down. Okay, so again, to review, so you're going to try, your goal would be about 3 sets of 10 to 20 of these in each direction. You'd be holding here, eccentrically coming down into pronation, say 10 to 20 times, whatever you can do. You'd be surprised if you're injured how hard this will actually be. Once you get down here, you're going to use your opposite hand to bring it back up. Then you're going to come out here nice and slow, again 10 to 20 of these. You bring your other hand over to help bring it up. Good, so that would be exercise number 2. And then exercise number 3 would be going palm down from up to lowering your wrist down with generally 5 to 10 pound weight, 10 to 20 times for the outside or lateral epicondylitis pain. If you have medial epicondylitis pain, you're going to start with your wrist flexed, and you're going to slowly lower it down, again using your hand to help the weight back up. 10 to 20 times, about 3 sets. Okay, so just to review, guys, you got the 3 strength exercises to help rebuild your resilience in the actual tissue around the elbow. Number 1 is going to be the eccentric pronation, coming this way 10 to 20 times, use the other hand to help bring it up. Eccentric supination, coming this way 10 to 20 times, use your other hand to help bring it up. Eccentric, this is going to be eccentric flexion, coming down. That's for if you have pain on the outside of the elbow, 10 to 20 times. And then eccentric flexion for the medial flexor muscles if you have inside elbow pain. Okay, 3 sets of 10 to 20 for all of those. And the first step, obviously, before any of that actually would help, is to actually get the tissue healthy, and that's where you're going to use the golf ball or your hands, either in the cross friction technique or in the active release technique, where you're moving the wrist. So these muscles are shortened, I'm lengthening the muscles out as I strip up. Okay, so 2 tissue techniques for you, and basically 4 exercises. Depending if it's an outside elbow pain, you'd use eccentric flexion. If it's inside elbow pain, you'd use eccentric extension going down. Okay, so if you have any questions with this, definitely email me or email us. But as always, if you have any questions, please let us know. We'd always love to jump on a call with you, help you through what you're going through, and give you the best advice in terms of the direction to go to help get you back playing as soon as you can. And always remember, guys, once you get that elbow fixed and you're back out on the course, keep up with it. If you're doing this sort of a routine from a prevention standpoint as well, you're always going to be swinging faster, playing better, and hurting less.